morning and welcome to Fox 29's News Now. We're going to turn you over to France now, where U.S. President Donald Trump skipped a discussion on climate with other world leaders at the Group of Seven summit, leaving an empty chair as global powers debated how to help the fire-ravaged Amazon and reduce carbon emissions. President Trump is slated to speak this Monday morning. Stay with us.
For bringing in
proximity for world leaders traveling in. He talked about how spacious his golf club is, with rooms for all the delegation members to be able to stay on the property. It is a controversial choice if the president were to move forward in selecting it, and that is because, of course, the president still has a financial stake in the properties that he owns. That is sure to raise questions about potential conflict of interest from President Trump. Let's be cautious here a little bit, though. He didn't come out and say, hey, we're definitely going to do it here next year, so still some tea leaf reading to go on that one, Morgan. Thanks, David. Yeah, whatever you need. I mean, Kelly's also the PFC if you need her on that, the next one.
Comment? Des vidéos? Non, en photo, je prends l'iPhone. Faut que ça change bien. Et pour la vidéo, comment? combinaisons possibles. Il y en a, ils font toutes les combinaisons possibles. Il y en a 12 500. Je pense que sa conférence de presse pour les amis. Comme ils font son conseil européen.
Yann, si tu pouvais d'ailleurs te préparer avec ça pour la conférence de presse avec
J'assume parfaitement mon hétérosexualité, monsieur. Non, on se demande surtout. Ah oui, elle est à fond. On se demande pourquoi la Rome elle doit être tombée. Je sais pas.
De quoi? C'est chaud apparemment.
On se demande comment techniquement ça peut se faire si la robe remonte au-dessus de la.
Parce qu'elle l'a pris, elle est coincée dans sa chaussure.
Peut-être aussi.
Oui.
Ah ouais.
Où elle tourne.
On voit les serres. C'est avec ton épouse là, que tu marches en moto, je vois pas de photos passer. C'est ma copine, je suis pas marié. Oui, c'est ton. Je vois pas une photo marrante passer. Alors,
Ouais, mais faut que je le fasse Thank you very much. Let's see. Thank you very much.
Monsieur le Président, Madame la Première Dame, Mesdames,
Mr.
Messieurs,
President, Madam First
She
Lady,
have
ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen,
Mesdames, Messieurs, je voulais, à
Ladies and
l'issue
gentlemen,
de ce G7 que nous venons de tenir
following this G7 meeting
Pendant,
that we have just held,
près de 2 jours,
and we've been
évidemment vous
discussing
rendre compte, mais avant
for
toute chose,
2 days now,
remercier
and I'm
le
going
président
to
Trump,
report back to you. But first of all, I'd like
l'ensemble
to
des chefs
thank
d'État et
President
de
Trump and
gouvernement
all the heads of state and government
présents pour
present
ce travail
here
extrêmement
for the
productif et
extremely
les très bonnes
productive
discussions, les très
work
bons échanges que
and
nous
the
avons
very
eus depuis
productive
samedi soir ensemble.
discussions that we've had since
En effet,
Saturday evening
Il y
together.
avait beaucoup de nervosité
There was a lot of
au début de ce
nervousness
G7, beaucoup d'attentes,
at the outset,
parfois
a lot of expectations,
beaucoup de tensions, de
a
conflictualité
lot
qui
of
pouvaient être rapportées.
tensions,
Et
and
je
we heard
peux
about a lot
aussi
of
vraiment dire que
conflicts, and I can
ce à quoi
say
nous avons tenu
that
ensemble tout particulièrement, c'est
what
que
we were
un
really
message
keen
d'unité,
on
un
was to
esprit
convey a
des discussions puissent
positive
ressortir, et c'est
and
ce qui est vraiment
joint
ressorti
message
de nos
following
échanges
our discussions.
sur de nombreux sujets.
Discussions on several
Nous n'avons
topics.
pas négocié, comme je m'y étais engagé, un très long texte.
We haven't
Et
negotiated a very
vous sera
long
remis dans
text
quelques
as
instants une seule
promised,
page de
and you will get
déclaration.
just
Et
a
ensuite beaucoup
one-page
d'annexes,
declaration.
de textes qui ont été
Then there'll be a lot of
agréés.
different
Mais une seule
annexes
page
to it,
qui revient sur
but
quelques
it's just
sujets
one
évidemment
page,
essentiels,
one page that covers
au-delà des
some of the
discussions et des
key
sessions de travail que nous
items
avons pu
that were
Nous avons tenu à faire cette conférence de presse
addressed.
ensemble.
Now,
Je
we
laisse
have
ensuite
decided to
le
hold this
président
joint
Trump,
conference.
la
I'm going to
première
give
dame
the
et
floor
l'ensemble de son staff
to
ici dans cette salle pour qu'ils puissent poursuivre par
President
sa
Trump,
propre conférence de presse
and
et
of course
répondre à
President
la
Trump
presse
and the
américaine et
First Lady
internationale
will
sur
then proceed with
tous les
their
autres
own
sujets.
press
Et je rendrai
conference
compte
to
de
the
manière
American
détaillée
press
un
where
peu plus
other
tard de
discussions
l'ensemble des
will
points
take
sur
place,
lesquels
but
nous
I
avons
just wanted to
réussi
sum up the
à trouver
different
un accord et
items
les
on
avancées
which
sur de nombreux
we
sujets,
have agreed
de la
and
biodiversité en
the topics
passant
on
par le
which we have made
numérique
headway,
et
biodiversity,
Mais
digital
à avoir cette
economy,
conférence de presse
amongst
ensemble,
others.
parce
So we
que
wanted to hold
l'année
this
prochaine,
joint conference together
ce sont
because
les
next
États-Unis
year
d'Amérique qui auront
it is the
à
United
accueillir
States
le
of
G7.
America that will
Ce
host the
passage de témoin du
G7
président à
summit,
sa présidence
and
est un
we are
point
going to
auquel nous
pass the baton on to
Et puis, je dois vous
President
dire,
Trump. That is
parce
why
que
we are
nous
here together.
avons, durant ces 2 jours et
And I
demi, fait
just
beaucoup
wanted
de
to
choses
say that for
ensemble.
the last 2 days we have worked a
On a
lot
sans doute plusieurs
together
points communs, mais
on
l'un tout
several
particulièrement avec le président
common
Trump.
points. Well, we have a
Nous
lot
n'aimons
of
pas perdre
things in
notre temps.
common, but one thing we have in
Et
common with President
nous
Trump
aimons
is they
avoir des
don't like to
résultats,
waste
des
our
accords,
time, and we
et
like
mettre tout le monde
to
dans une
achieve
dynamique positive.
concrete results and
Et donc,
provide
dès
momentum
l'arrivée du président
to the
Trump,
work.
à
And
travers
as soon
le
as
déjeuner en tête-à-tête que
President
nous avons eu,
Trump
qui, je dois dire, a été
arrived
sans
with
doute une des
the
discussions les plus
one-to-one
productives et les plus riches que nous
lunch
ayons
that we
eues
had together,
ensemble,
and I think that those are the
nous
most
sommes mis dans une
productive and
dynamique qui
interesting
a
conversations
permis
that we've had
véritablement de faire
together.
avancer
And from
nombre
that
de
point
dossiers. Je veux
onward,
vraiment remercier Monsieur le
we
Président
set
pour
the pace
cet
and
esprit et l'efficacité.
kept the ball rolling to be
Juste quelques
as
mots sur des
efficient
points qui
as
étaient très
possible till
attendus,
the
en
very
particulier
end.
pour nos deux pays.
There
Sur
are
l'Iran,
a few things that are expected from
Sur l'Iran,
both our countries. As far
le
as
président Trump et
Iran
moi-même
is
avons
concerned,
eu
President Trump and myself
des échanges toutes ces dernières semaines, mais particulièrement ces 2
have
derniers
had
jours.
discussions in the last few weeks,
Nous
and
sommes
particularly
d'accord
the last couple
pour
of
dire que
days,
l'Iran doit
and we
respecter
agree that
ses
Iran
obligations nucléaires,
needs to
doit avoir
comply
un
with its nuclear
comportement responsable
obligations
dans le Golfe,
and have
travailler
responsible
avec nous.
behavior in the Gulf
Et au
and
fond, on a
work
2 choses
with us.
très claires
And there
auxquelles
are
nous tenons.
2 very clear things
L'Iran ne
that
doit
matter
jamais
to
avoir
us.
d'armes nucléaires.
Iran should never
Et cette
have
situation ne doit
a
pas
nuclear
menacer la
weapon,
stabilité de la région.
and its situation should not threaten the
La France a
stability
pris
of the
plusieurs
region.
initiatives et j'en ai
France
toujours
has
tenu
taken a lot
informé
of different
le président
initiatives,
Trump
and I've always
pour essayer de
informed
trouver des
President
moyens
Trump
techniques
on
de
them
bouger.
to
Parce que
be able to
les
get the
décisions
technical
américaines
means
des
to
derniers
move
mois
forward,
ont mis
because the
beaucoup de pression
decisions that the
et
US
doivent nous mettre
taken
en
in the
situation
last few
d'améliorer
months have put a
justement
lot of pressure
la
and have
sécurité
put
régionale de
us
la
in a
région.
situation where it is indeed necessary to improve
Par
the
cette coordination,
security
nous avons pris une
situation
initiative
of the
hier qui a
region.
été de faire
So we
revenir
coordinated
le
our
ministre
efforts
des
and
Affaires
we
étrangères
reached the
iranien.
decision to
Et
bring
de
together
nombreux échanges
the
avec le
foreign
ministre
ministers,
français
foreign minister of
permis
Iran,
justement dessiner un chemin.
had a
Rien
meeting
n'est fait.
with the French Foreign Minister,
Les choses
and
sont encore éminemment fragiles.
a roadmap
Mais il y a des
has sort
discussions
of
qui se
been
sont
said,
ainsi
but
amorcées
nothing
sur le plan technique,
is
avec véritablement
absolutely set in stone,
des
and we will
avancées.
have to move ahead
Et puis ce matin,
together to
le
find
président Rouhani a clairement dit
an
qu'il était
outcome.
prêt à
This morning,
à
President
rencontrer
Rouhani said
tout
that he was
responsable
prepared
politique si
to
c'est dans
meet
l'intérêt de son pays.
any political leader
Ce que j'ai dit
in the interest of his
au
country.
ministre Zarif, et ce que j'ai
And
dit
that's what I told
par
Minister
téléphone
Zarif,
au
and this
président
is what I
Rouhani,
mentioned to President Rouhani on the phone
que
as
s'il
well,
acceptait une rencontre
that
avec le président
if he
Trump,
agreed to a meeting
ma
with President
conviction
Trump,
est qu'un
that my
accord peut être
conviction
trouvé.
was
On en
that
connaît
an
les termes,
agreement
les
can be
objectifs.
met.
Mais
We
il faut maintenant
know
se
the
mettre autour de
terms,
la table et y arriver.
we know the objectives, but we have
Et
to
donc, je
just
souhaite que dans
now
les prochaines
sit around the
semaines,
table and make that happen.
sur la base de
So I
ces
hope
échanges,
that in the next few
nous
weeks,
puissions
based on our
réussir
discussions, we will be able
à avoir
to achieve
un entretien
the
au sommet entre le président Rouhani
meeting
et le
that
président Trump.
we just
Bien
mentioned
entendu,
between President Rouhani
moi-même
and
et
President Trump,
nos partenaires qui ont un rôle à
myself
jouer dans la
and
négociation
the
nucléaire
partners who have a
pourront
role to
être là
play
et
in
seront
nuclear
pleinement associés.
negotiations will also
Je
be
pense que ce
fully
rendez-vous est
involved
très
in
important
these negotiations.
et
So I think that
que
this
ces
meeting
derniers
is
jours
very
de
important,
clarification, à la fois les messages
and
forts qui ont été
the last
apportés,
few days have
le mouvement qui a été
clarified
fait,
the
le travail qui a
situation.
été fait
A lot
aussi
of
entre nos
messages have been
ministres, et je veux
conveyed.
remercier
A lot of work
ici
has been done with
ministre Minuchin,
between our
le ministre Maire, le
ministers. I would
ministre
like
Le Drian,
to
qui sont là et qui ont
thank
permis de beaucoup
our
avancer
ministers
sur ces sujets.
who have
Nous avons
been
créé les
totally
conditions
involved
de cette
in
rencontre
these discussions and have set the stage for
Et toujours
these
très prudent, il faut
discussions
être très
and
humble.
for an agreement.
Mais je
Of course,
pense
I want
que
to
c'est
be
en tout
very
cas quelque
cautious
chose
and
qui
very
stoppe
modest,
cette escalade et
but
qui permet
I
d'arriver
think
aux
that
objectifs que
this
nous
is going
poursuivons.
to lead
Et je veux vraiment vous remercier,
to
Président, d'avoir,
bring an end to escalation
durant la
and
discussion que
reaching
nous avons
a
eue à la fois
suitable
samedi midi et samedi
solution.
soir, montré
So,
cette
the discussions
volonté
that
de
we
trouver un
had on
accord sur
Saturday
votre
afternoon
tempérament
and Saturday
et de trouver aussi dans des termes qui sont bons pour la
dinner
sécurité de
has
la
just
région.
have been very
Parce que
fruitful,
l'objectif
and
final,
our
l'exigence que
purpose
vous avez,
is
c'est
to ensure
qu'il n'y
the
ait pas
stability of the
justement
region.
l'obtention de l'arme
The idea
nucléaire
is
et
to make
d'avoir
sure that
plus de
Iran doesn't get the
visibilité dans
nuclear
le
weapon and have more
Sur le commerce,
visibility
nous
in the
partageons
long
beaucoup de constats,
term.
d'analyses. On a eu
As
une
far
très
as
bonne
trade is
discussion, j'y
concerned,
reviendrai
we've
plus tard dans
also
le
shared
détail.
a lot of analysis and
Mais
a lot of observations. Later on,
là-dessus, je
I'll
crois
go into
pouvoir
the
dire
details
que
of that.
l'échange
But I
a
think we can
clarifié
say that our discussions
ce
have
qui
clarified
légitimement
what is
c'est que les États-Unis considèrent aujourd'hui que la situation
legitimate
n'est pas juste.
and what the United States
Nous avons des règles
feels is an
internationales
unfair
sur le commerce.
situation. We have
Je crois
international
que nous sommes tous
rules
d'accord, et
that
d'ailleurs nous
govern
l'avons dit dans cette
international
page
trade.
que nous sortons ensemble,
And
qu'il est
in
bon
this
d'avoir des règles et une
one-page
organisation
document, we
tous
said that
ensemble
it
du
is
commerce.
very good to have
Mais cette
a
organisation
single
collective,
organization
elle n'a
that
pas
governs
été assez
international
efficace
trade. But so far,
pour
this
lever les
collective
barrières
body has not been very
réglementaires.
efficient in
Elle n'a
raising
pas
trade
été assez
barriers.
efficace
It has not
pour
been
régler les
efficient
problèmes
enough
quand il y en avait.
in solving
Elle n'a pas
problems
été
when they
assez
occurred.
efficace pour
It has
protéger
not
la
been
propriété
efficient enough
intellectuelle de nos
in
industriels.
protecting the intellectual
Il y a des
property
discussions
of
en
our
cours,
industries.
en particulier
Discussions
une
are
discussion entre
underway
le président
currently,
Trump
in particular
et le président
between
Xi.
President
Avec,
Trump and President Xi.
On a vu encore ces dernières heures
And
des
we
évolutions et
have
un accord
seen,
qui sera,
even
je
in
l'espère,
just
trouvé.
the recent,
Mais nous avons
very recent
aussi ici collectivement
past, that an
réaffirmé
agreement
notre
can be
volonté
reached. So we want
de
to
changer ces règles du commerce
reaffirm
pour arriver à
our
nos fins.
desire
Et dire
to
on doit les
change
moderniser profondément, les réformer,
the rules that
pour que
govern
toutes ces
international
situations
trade
injustes dont nos pays ont parfois
and
été
revamp them so
qui fait que
that
nos travailleurs ne sont pas respectés,
no
la
one
propriété
is dealt with
intellectuelle n'est pas
unfairly,
protégée,
so that
doivent
our
être
workers
stoppées.
are protected and
Et là,
so
le
that
processus de réforme,
the
nous
situation of
connaissons et
the
nous allons
past
nous y
is
atteler
put
ensemble.
to an end.
Et
And this is
ensuite, il y a
something
eu,
that we need to work
faut bien le
on
dire,
together.
beaucoup de nervosité,
Now,
parfois liée à des
there was a lot of
malentendus, ou à ce que
nervousness because
certains
of
acteurs
misunderstanding,
économiques très puissants
because
pouvaient dire
some
sur
very
cette fameuse
powerful economic
taxe
players
numérique
could
française.
have said, what about
Vous en
this
expliquez, parfois on en a
digital
plaisanté.
tax that France has imposed?
Mais je crois qu'on a
Well,
trouvé un très bon accord et là encore,
we
le
have
travail
reached a
de nos
very good
ministres a permis
agreement,
de
and
faire
once
beaucoup
again,
avancer
the
les
solid
choses.
work that has been done upstream
Au
by
fond,
ministers
nous avons dans nos
has really
économies
helped us to make
des
progress.
situations qui sont très injustes.
In our economies, we
C'est que
have
certains
very
acteurs
unfair situations
ne payent pas d'impôts.
where some players don't
Et
pay
créer une concurrence
taxes.
déloyale avec
So
d'autres
there is
acteurs.
unfair
Ce sont d'ailleurs
competition with other
ces gros
players.
acteurs internationaux
And
qui
it
ne payent
is
pas
these
d'impôts, ceux qui
large
créent les changements les plus
multinational
brutaux,
players that don't
créent parfois les plus grands
pay
déséquilibres
taxes,
mondiaux.
which
Est-ce
leads
juste?
to significant instability
Nous
on
avons
the
beaucoup poussé pour changer les
economic
règles
front. Is
internationales
this
sur ce
fair?
sujet.
It is not fair.
Le
Of
faire au
course,
niveau
we're
européen.
pushing for
Et c'est vrai
international
qu'une
rules
dizaine de pays
on this
européens,
even. And
la
at
France,
the
mais
European
aussi
level,
l'Italie, la
10
Grande-Bretagne,
countries,
beaucoup de
France,
pays,
Italy,
sont en train
even
de
the
prendre
UK
sur
is
une
getting ready to
base
do
nationale.
so, it has decided to do
c'est
something
pas
at the
contre telle ou
national
telle
level,
compagnie.
but it is not against
pour
any
régler ce problème.
company
Et
in
d'ailleurs, beaucoup de
particular. It's
compagnies
just to
françaises
solve
seront
the
touchées par
problem.
cette taxe.
In fact, a lot of French
Voilà, ce qu'on veut,
companies
c'est
will
pas du
also
tout
be
mettre en place cette
impacted by
taxe.
this
Vous m'avez
tax.
entendu pour certains il y a
And some of you have
plusieurs mois.
probably heard
C'est
me
régler le
say
problème
a few
international.
months
Je crois qu'on
ago
a fait une vraie avancée parce que
that this is
nous avons
only to
ensemble
find
acté
a
le fait
solution,
que nous allons
and the
travailler
aim
pour trouver
ultimately
un accord
is
en
to
2020
find
pour
an
moderniser les
agreement
règles de la fiscalité
internationally by
internationale dans le cadre de
2020
l'OCDE.
to revamp
qui nous permettra de prendre en
international
compte ces évolutions
tax systems
nécessaires
within
et
the
de lutter
framework
contre la
of
concurrence
the
fiscale dommageable
OECD
qui détruit les emplois, y compris aux
combat
États-Unis.
harmful trade practices, which are also harmful to the
Sur
US
cette taxe
economy.
numérique,
And
nous avons
through
aussi beaucoup
this
travaillé en bilatéral
digital tax,
franco-américain.
on
nous
this
avons un
digital tax,
accord
we worked a lot
pour sortir des
bilaterally
difficultés
as
qu'il y a eu
well,
entre nous.
and we have
Et donc, on
reached
va
an
travailler
agreement
ensemble sur cette
to
base
overcome
bilatérale et sur cette
the
base
hurdles.
internationale
So we're going to
pour trouver une
work on a
solution, et je l'ai dit
bilateral
très
and
clairement.
multilateral basis to find
Le
a
jour où
solution
on a
together.
cette fiscalité
And
internationale,
the day
la France supprime
international tax
tout projet de
exists
taxe,
on
c'était d'ailleurs ce qu'on
digital
voulait faire.
services, France will do
Et
away with its
tout ce qui a été
national
payé au titre de cette
tax.
taxe sera déduit
And everything that
de
has
cette taxe
already
internationale.
been
C'est ce qui a
paid
été vu entre les
under
ministres. Je laisserai
the
évidemment,
French tax
s'ils le veulent, préciser les choses.
system will be
Mais ce
reimbursed.
qui est important de
So,
dire ici, c'est qu'on a trouvé un accord
the idea
qui est
is
bon
that we
de
need
part
to
et d'autre,
find a
que ce faisant, on
joint
permet de régler des
agreement
situations internationales qui
in
étaient
order to
extrêmement négatives
address
et qu'on
joint
modernise le système
international
fiscal
problems.
international
And the
ensemble.
situation right now
On
is
travaille
very
à des
negative,
objectifs
and the
communs
international tax
avec un
system
esprit de
definitely
coopération, et
needs
je
to
pense
be
que c'est
modernized. And I
extrêmement
think we will
important.
work together in a
Voilà, sur
spirit
la
of
Libye,
cooperation
sur
on this.
la Syrie, la
As to
Corée du Nord,
Libya,
Hong Kong, vous verrez
Syria,
dans le texte, on a beaucoup
North
avancé,
Korea,
travaillé
Hong
ensemble
Kong,
dans
you
cet
will
esprit
see
d'unité
in
que
the
j'évoquais.
one-page document that we
Et
have
enfin, sur
made
beaucoup
considerable
d'initiatives concrètes
headway
aussi,
in
je veux
the
en
spirit
citer une
of
dont nous avons parlé
unity,
le premier
and
soir, qui
we
est l'Amazonie.
have also
Le président Trump
recently
a eu le président
done some
Bolsonaro au
significant
téléphone avant
work
de venir.
as far as the
Il avait
Amazon
engagé très rapidement
region
les
is
États-Unis d'Amérique
concerned.
en soutien
There has
auprès des
been
populations,
relations
et nous
with
avons acté
President Bolsonaro,
un
and
plan
we have
d'initiative extrêmement ambitieux que le
taken
président
a very
Pinera a présenté
ambitious
ce matin.
initiative
Après avoir
that
fait
President
cette concertation avec
Pinera
l'ensemble
presented this morning
des chefs d'État et
after
de
having
gouvernement de la
discussed
région,
with all
comme
the heads of state and
nous l'avions
government
souhaité
of the
et le
region,
président Trump l'avait
as
souhaité.
we had wished
Voilà,
and
je ne veux pas rentrer dans
as
plus de
President
détails,
Trump
mais je voulais
had wished
insister
as
sur
well.
ces points.
I don't want to go
Pour
into
vous
the
dire que
details,
nous
but I just
avons,
wanted to highlight these few
avec
things that I just
beaucoup d'entrain,
mentioned.
travaillé
I just wanted to
ensemble
say
très
that we
étroitement
worked
avec le président
together
Trump durant ces
hand
2
in
jours.
hand with
Que
President
nous avons
Trump
réussi à dégager
over these 2
durant
days.
ce G7, et je
And
remercie
during
tous nos
this
collègues.
G7, and I would like to thank all my colleagues, in fact, for
Je
this,
crois des points de convergence
we have
inédits,
managed to
très
reach
positifs qui permettent d'avancer
convergence at
Maintenant,
unprecedented
on va
levels
continuer à
on
travailler dans
several
les prochaines
issues.
semaines,
And now we're going to
les prochains
continue
mois,
this work in
avec
the
beaucoup de
weeks and
force.
months to follow
La Corée du Nord,
with
sait
a lot of
combien le
energy.
président Trump est engagé dans ce
And
combat.
North Korea
Et continuera
knows
de le faire, il nous en a parlé
how
tout à l'heure, et on sera
strongly
derrière lui.
President
J'espère qu'on
Trump
trouvera
is
un accord
committed
sur la Chine,
to
qui serait un vrai
this
changement.
issue.
Et on
There's
sera
also
ensemble
the
côte à côte
agreement
sur tous les combats
with
qui
China,
sont à
and
mener.
we're going to work hand in
Je voulais
hand
vraiment vous remercier,
on all
Président,
of the different
de votre
issues.
présence et de cette action
I would like to
durant
thank
ces 2
you,
jours.
President Trump,
Remercier
for
la Première
your
Dame,
involvement in the last couple of
également,
days. I would like to
à vos
thank
côtés,
your First
qui a
Lady, who was by
été
your
active
side and who
aux côtés
has
de mon
been
épouse
very
et
active
toutes les premières dames présentes,
side by
mais qui
side
nous fait
with
toujours
my
l'honneur
own
de sa
spouse,
présence en France.
and
Et
she
elle sait
has
combien elle est
honored us
populaire
and
dans notre pays.
in our country. She
Et
knows how
Président, vous
popular
aurez
she is in
l'année
our
prochaine
country.
aussi la
And
présidence du G7, et
President Trump
je vous
will be
laisse
hosting
également
the G7
annoncer
summit next
à nos
year,
amis
so I'm
où
going
et
to give him
comment
the
vous
floor
comptez
so that he
l'organiser.
can tell us
J'y serai avec
how
la même
you
volonté
intend
de
to
construire,
organize the
de bâtir,
G7, and I will
de
be
créer
there
l'unité et la
by your
convergence.
side
Merci
with the
infiniment,
same will
Président.
and the same determination and the same desire for unity. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you very much, and I think more importantly than anything, I wanted to come up here to say that because the job that President Macron and your wife, by the way, who is a great lady, Bridget, would like to thank Bridget. She has been spectacular, spent a tremendous amount of time with Melania and some of the folks who came in, some of the wives that came in, and they had a great tour of the area, and it's a beautiful area. But I want to thank you very much, Mr. President, for the incredible job you did. This is a truly successful G7. There was tremendous unity. There was great unity. Sometimes I'd read a little bit of false reporting, and I will tell you there was, in fact, we would have stayed for another hour. Nobody wanted to leave. We were accomplishing a lot, but I think more importantly, we were getting along very well. 7 countries, and it really was the G7, and you have been a spectacular leader on this. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank the great country of France. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, I think, excuse me, I was, go ahead, let's go.
No, I just wanted to say we will take 2 questions on each side. Afterward, I will say goodbye to my friend President Trump. I will leave the room in order for you to follow up with.
If you'd like, we could do 2 each, and then we'll both leave the room. Would you prefer that, or would you prefer 10? I just don't. want to have the President of France standing here while I'm answering these absolutely wonderful questions, okay? So why don't we start with a question for France?
These 4 questions are about G7 and U.S.-France relations.
And Emmanuel's going to have his own press conference after this.
Exactly.
So that'll be fine. Go ahead. To France, John. To France. To France, John. To France.
Thank you, Margot. Of course, they are the host country. They should go first. Thank you, Margot. Of course, they are the host country. They should go first. Monsieur President Macron, China was not on the official agenda, but it was certainly a big part of the discussions here at the G7. Are you concerned that the trade war that exists now between the United States and China could harm the global economy? If you are, did you talk to President Trump about that? And are you also at the same time concerned that if China's current trade practices go unchecked, that a decade from now we could be in a very terrible situation?
Sur ce sujet, nous en avons évidemment longuement discuté durant la session sur l'économie mondiale d'hier matin. Sur vos 2 sujets.
On both subjects.
Les discussions qui sont en cours entre la Chine
Discussions
et les
underway
États-Unis
between
d'Amérique,
China and the United States of
évidemment,
America.
elles créent, on le voit bien, des incertitudes
Clearly see,
qui agitent les marchés, les
uncertainty,
investisseurs,
which disturb
et
markets
pendant le
and
temps de la
investors,
négociation, créent des
and
tensions,
during the
qui est le
negotiations
cas
will
de
create
toute
tensions,
discussion.
which is the case of any
Et
discussion.
on l'a vu sur les
We saw
différents marchés
this
actions
on different
que
stock
nous
markets,
Maintenant, la question,
with which
c'est
we're familiar.
l'issue de ces
Now the
discussions.
question is to know what the result of these
Pourquoi-
discussions
ce à
will
quoi
be.
nous sommes attachés sur
And
ce
that's
point,
why
c'est qu'un accord puisse être
we
trouvé
considered that it was so important an agreement be found between the 2 greatest
Président
economic
Trump
powers in the world.
clairement indiqué sa volonté de
President
trouver un
Trump
accord.
clearly showed us
Nous
his
avons d'ailleurs
willingness
noté
to arrive at an
encore il y a
agreement.
quelques heures
We saw just a
les
few
messages
hours ago
positifs,
the very
encourageants,
positive and
qui
encouraging
sont
message that
On
could
voit
be
que les choses
distilled
bougent.
from this. We see that things are
Mon souhait très
moving.
profond, c'est qu'un accord puisse
Our
être trouvé
deep
entre les
wish is
États-Unis
for an
d'Amérique
agreement to be
et
found
la
between the
Chine
United
commerciale.
States and China
Ce sera
concerning trade,
positif.
because I think that will be something positive for everyone.
Ni les États-Unis ni la Chine ne sont
Neither the
naïfs
United
sur le
States
plan
nor China
économique,
is
industriel.
economically or industrially naive.
équilibré pour être
It has to
bon
be a balanced agreement that will be good for
Nous
everyone.
veillons à ce qu'il soit bon pour
And
l'ensemble
we
du globe.
will be vigilant to see that it's good for the whole world. In that context, our different parameters will be taken on board, and that was one of the subjects of our discussion. What's bad for the world economy is uncertainty, and the quicker an agreement is arrived at, the quicker that uncertainty will dissipate. That's what we discussed yesterday, and that's the American president's wish. In terms of trade practices, I said this earlier.
La manière
For
la
me,
plus
the
efficace
most effective way
et la plus
forward
stratégique
and the most strategic way
de régler
forward
notre relation commerciale avec la Chine,
in settling our trade relations
c'est de
with China
développer les échanges,
is to develop
mais de
trade,
s'assurer que ces échanges
but also
s'inscrivent
to
dans le cadre
ensure
des
that that
règles
trade
internationales.
is part of international trade rules. The problems we sometimes have,
avec l'économie chinoise.
we're very familiar with this with the Chinese economy. From a major economy where there's been lots of investment from the United States, European countries, Canada, and Japan. The problem is respecting intellectual property,
C'est le traitement de surcapacité
dealing with excess capacity,
pour déséquilibrer certains marchés mondiaux.
which sometimes unbalances
C'est la
some world
capacité à
markets,
régler très rapidement les conflits qu'on peut
and
avoir.
the ability to deal rapidly with conflicts we may have and with unfair situations. Now, we are obliged to see that when this type of trade happens outside of WTO rules, things don't work very well and we're not properly protected. And when you follow WTO rules, the WTO rules as they presently exist haven't allowed us to be protected on this subject. So what we decided together yesterday morning was to accelerate with a very realistic agenda and to say we're going to change the rules of world trade so that everyone can have free and fair trade, balanced trade, and that the subjects that I've just mentioned, which have sometimes been bad for our economies, can be settled in an international framework which we wish profoundly to change. And we and our different ministers in the different contexts that we're putting forward are going to share these political goals. And to my way of thinking, the way to deal with the practices you have mentioned certainly the positive agreements that will be arrived at, and also the renewal of our international trade rules, as we said yesterday morning.
Are you satisfied with how far the proposed WTO reforms will go?
No, I'm not,
You've
but
spoken about the need for that. And second to that,
we're getting there, John. Just to answer that.
second to that, do you believe that China is sincere about what it said this morning?
Yes.
Or do you think that they are just trying to calm the markets and play for time? Because our sister network, the Fox Business Network, has been told by Chinese sources that they have no plans on going back to where they were in terms of the negotiations this spring on intellectual property, forced technology transfer, ownership. So
We'll see, John.
do you trust that they are sincere?
I do. I think they want to make a deal very badly. I think that was elevated last night, very late in the night. I see an alert, or you would call it breaking news, and it was that the vice chairman, we're not talking about somebody from China at a low level, the vice chairman of China came out that he wants to see a deal made. He wants it to be made under calm conditions, using the word calm. I agree with him on that. And China has taken a very hard hit over the last number of months. They've lost much more than 3 million jobs. It'll soon be much more than 3 million jobs. Their chain is breaking. The chain is breaking up like nobody's seen before. And once that happens, it's very hard to put it back together. You understand? I think they very much want to make a deal. And the longer they wait, the harder it is to put it back, if it can be put back at all. So I believe they want to do a deal. The tariffs have hit them very hard. In a fairly short period of time, the United States will have collected over $100 billion in tariffs. And I say it again, the reporters failed to, the media failed to acknowledge it. But if you look at the goods coming in from China, we're talking about China, not other countries. If you look at the goods, they have a power that others don't have. But that power is only good for so long. They've manipulated their currency, they've devalued their currency, and they put a lot of cash into the system. And because of that, the prices have not gone up, or if they've gone up, it's been very little, because they want to keep people working. If the prices go up, they're not going to be able to keep people working. They're not going to be able to compete. It's a brilliant market. It's a brilliant market. The world market. A lot of markets are brilliant. And frankly, I think that China cannot, I don't know, maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't think they can do that. And I think they're very smart. And I think President Xi is a great leader who happens to be a brilliant man, and he can't lose 3 million jobs in a very short period of time, and that's going to be magnified many times over, and it's going to break down the Chinese system of trade, and he can't do that. So when you say, do you think they want to? Maybe they want to, and maybe they don't, but I think they want to make a deal. I'm not sure they have a choice, and I don't say that as a threat. I don't think they have a choice. In the meantime, the United States, which has never collected 10 cents from China, will, in a fairly short period of time, be over $100 billion in tariffs. So I think they want to make a deal. Go ahead. Very badly.
Second question.
Deuxième question.
Second question.
Monsieur le Président, Mathieu Coche, BFM.
Mr. President, you've just declared that you created the conditions for a meeting between President Trump and President Rouhani. Does that mean that France, for instance, might be a mediator in that meeting? And more concretely, what did you discuss in terms of that possible agreement with Iran? Then a question for Mr. Trump. Are you ready to lift or to soften American sanctions on Iranian oil exports, and would you be ready to meet President Rouhani? Thank you. On the first
Première question.
On the first question,
Les termes de la discussion
are quite simple.
Un accord a été signé en 2015.
An agreement was signed in 2015.
Le 14 juillet 2015.
On July 14th. We call it the JCPOA.
Et cet accord a prévu des garanties pour la communauté internationale,
including the signatories of that agreement, saying that Iran would no longer enrich uranium over a certain period of time. I'm simplifying this, but up to 2025, in exchange for reopening many economic sectors and massive investment, largely made by the United States. That agreement had a twofold advantage. Stability and security, and also reopening economically, which was good for Iran. This agreement also had drawbacks and shortcomings. French negotiators in 2015 were the most determined, and France was the country that hesitated most to sign this agreement because we considered we needed as many guarantees as possible. President Trump, during his campaign, made a commitment to those who voted for him to be more demanding and tougher because he considered that this agreement was insufficient, which caused him to leave it. Today, because of the sanctions made by President Trump, the Iranian economy is having serious consequences and a serious slowdown. And that situation very clearly is the aspect, we might say the positive side of things, from one standpoint, is creating pressure and therefore the necessary conditions to improve the terms of the agreement. On the other hand, it's leading to reactions in Iran who are saying, well, we've signed this agreement, but those who have signed it are not respecting its terms, and so starting symbolically to enrich uranium, and they risk that they're going to go further still and leave the GPCOA. So, given the two goals that we have, where are we going with this? We need to be sure that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon and that there will be no flare-ups in the region. And so what we discussed very concretely was to see how we could improve very considerably, or really, in fact, build a new nuclear agreement with Iran. President Trump was very clear, saying that we would need a much longer time frame for it, that there needed to be surveillance of many more sites, and this is how we can build a much further reaching agreement in terms of our security demands. And on the other hand, we need to convince the Iranians to go in that direction, and we can do that if we give them economic compensation of some form. If we make some movement in terms of lines of credit or reopening certain economic sectors. I can't tell you today publicly more about this because anything I will tell you in detail will jeopardize the conversations we're going to have. But this is basically what we're discussing. On the basis of our initiative, there's also a Japanese initiative. I'm talking in total transparency with the President, but we agreed on a strategic goal, and I want us to go further in this framework and to make proposals. At a given point in time, there will have to be a meeting between the American and the Iranian presidents, and I would wish that in coming weeks, such a meeting take place. France will play a role together with the other signatories, who are our partners in GCO. But after that, we'll need to create the necessary conditions, because we'll have the necessary visibility for this agreement to be signed into place, and for this meeting between the two presidents to take place. So I would rather talk about concerted initiatives and exchanges rather than mediation, because at the end of the day, we have constant exchanges with President Trump. I share his goals. Sometimes we say we don't agree on methods, but I want to get there. I want to have a true change. And I think there's been a true change. This morning, President Rouhani showed himself to be open to this meeting happening. And President Trump has been saying for weeks that he's being demanding, he's being tough, he's put forward sanctions, but I'm ready to have a meeting to make a deal. And I think that we're making progress. I want this meeting to happen, and I want there to be an agreement between the United States and Iran. And France will play the role it is meant to play together with the United Kingdom, with Germany, and all of the other signatory powers and the permanent members of the Security Council.
Iran is a country that is not the same country that it was 2.5 years ago when I came into office. Iran was the #1 state of terror throughout the world. There were 18 sites of confliction in my first week when I spoke with the folks at the Pentagon, including lots of generals and lots of other military experts. 18 sites of confliction, meaning 18 sites of big problems. Every one of them was backed by Iran, or in some cases actually using Iranian soldiers, but at a minimum Iranian wealth, much of it given in the ridiculous deal where they were given $150 billion plus $1.8 billion in cash, and they used that money for some bad purposes. With that being said, I think that Iran is a country of tremendous potential. We're not looking for leadership change. We're not looking for that kind of change. This country has been through that many times before. That doesn't work. We're looking for no nuclear weapons, no ballistic missiles, and a longer period of time. Very simple. We can have it done in a very short period of time. And I really believe that Iran can be a great nation. I'd like to see that happen. But they can't have nuclear weapons. Okay? Thank you. Excuse me?
If the circumstances were correct toward the right,
If the circumstances were correct toward the right, I would certainly agree to that. But in the meantime,
you understand what that means.
they have to be good players.
And they can't
You
do
understand what that means.
Going to do because
And they can't do what they were saying they're going to do, because if they do that, they're going to be met with really very violent force. We have no choice.
I really think they'd like to. And
So I think they're going to be good. I really think they'd like to. And by the way, President Macron told me every step that he was making yesterday. A lot of you said, oh, he came in. He told me long before he came in what was happening, I didn't think it was appropriate to meet yesterday, too soon, and things have to be worked out first. But President Macron told me exactly what was happening, who was coming, what time they were coming, where they were going to meet.
exactly what happened.
And after the meeting, he told me exactly what happened. And I think he had a very positive meeting. Prime Minister Abe of Japan, also a large purchaser of oil from Iran. He was also very much involved, and look, he knows everybody there, so he was a very, very positive force. But I have to tell you, the president's done an excellent job, and we're going to see how it all turns out. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I say it all the time about everything. Maybe it works, and maybe it doesn't. But I'll tell you what, we made a ridiculous deal. We gave him $150 billion. We gave him $1.8 billion, and we got nothing. We got nothing. And by the way, that agreement was so short-term that it expires in a very short period of time. With a country, you don't make a deal that short. Countries last for a long time, and you don't do short-term deals, especially when you're paying that kind of money. So I have good feelings about Iran. I have good feelings that it'll work. I know many Iranians living in New York City. I have many friends from Iran. They're incredible people, incredible people. So the last thing I'd like to see is a big problem, but we have to do what we have to do. Okay?
No.
Go ahead, please. No. You first. Go ahead.
Thank you.
No. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. President Macron, did you seek President Trump's permission before you invited Foreign Minister Zarif, or did you simply inform him that he was coming?
Thanks for this very precise question. But to be very clear, we are part of GCPOA. We are part of GCPOA. So we decided to remain as the situation. So we are very much interested by the situation as a sovereign country. That's why we want the different parties to move. On the other side, as President Trump made it very clear over the summer, we never spoke on behalf of other countries. We just tried, tested some solutions, and to see if we can find an agreement with different countries. So we took an initiative this summer to make a proposal, a technical one. I got a reaction from Iran through President Zarif's visit on Friday morning in Paris. After the discussion we had at the G-7 dinner on Saturday evening, I thought that it was very clear about where we can go together. So the day after, I decided to invite Minister Zarif as friends. So I informed before making Minister Zarif. I informed President Trump that it was my idea not to involve the United States, not to say this is on behalf of you, of everybody, but to say, as friends, I think it would be a good idea to ask him to go back and try to negotiate something separately. So I did it on my own. I informed, before making it, President Trump. He was informed at each minute about the situation, for me. And the idea, for me, was in case of structural move, important move on appropriate solutions, perhaps to have meetings between ministers, not at President Trump's level, because President Trump's level is President Rouhani. So this is my precise answer. This is a French initiative, but made by a clear information of the US President before, information as well of the three Europeans, and each time I informed President Trump in order to monitor the situation and to appreciate together if something more was adapted.
I have to say the JCPOA was should not have been entered into a deal. should not have been entered into. A lot of things could have happened that would have been much different. They're allowed to test ballistic missiles. You're not allowed to go to various sites to check. And some of those sites are the most obvious sites for the creation or the making of nuclear weapons. And those things have to be changed. And other things have to be changed. And I will tell you, I have very good feelings about it. I think that we're going to do something. It may not be immediately, but I think ultimately we're going to do something. As I said, Iran is a much different country than it was 2.5 years ago. And we can get that back, and I'd encourage it. I actually had friends years ago, many years ago, they were in the real estate business, and they were in Iran, and they were building houses and building housing and building office buildings and apartment houses, and they did very well. They made a lot of money, and to this day, they're not exactly the youngest developers anymore, but I tell you, they were young when they went over there. They made a lot of money, and they loved the people, and they loved what was going on. And it's a country with tremendous potential. I also say that, by the way, with respect to North Korea. Kim Jong-un, who I've gotten to know extremely well, First Lady has gotten to know Kim Jong-un, and I think she'd agree with me. He is a man with a country that has tremendous potential. You're in between China, Russia, and South Korea. People want to get to South Korea. They got to get there somehow, and if they're going to do anything other than essentially fly, they want to go through. So railroads and everything else, so many things want to happen there. I think that North Korea has tremendous economic potential, and I think that Kim Jong-un sees that. He would be the leader. And I think he sees the tremendous potential that it's got. With respect to Iran, same thing. Iran is incredible people, an incredible country potentially, location that's a little rough neighborhood, but eventually it's going to be a beautiful neighborhood. I think that it's going to be, I think it's going to work out. And I really believe that those countries that went into the original deal, that more and more are agreeing with what I did. But I think those countries are going to be saying thank you someday. I hope they're going to be saying, including France, including the president, because I think we did the right thing. I know we did the right thing. If for no other reason, it's just too short. It's almost expiring, if you think about it. And somebody said, well, you'll go and make an extension. No, no. They're great negotiators. Look at what they did to get the deal. Look at what they did to John Kerry and to President Obama. Look what happened. Where they're bringing plane loads of cash. Plane loads, big planes, 757s, Boeing 757s, coming in loaded up with cash. What kind of a deal is that? So I think a lot of good things are going to happen. And I just want to say this because I've spoken a lot with the president this last 2.5 days. We've never had a better relationship. We had a lunch that lasted for quite a while that many of you got to see. It was the two of us. No staff, no anything. He wasn't trying to impress his people. I wasn't trying to impress his people. We were just trying to impress each other. And I'll tell you what, it was the best period of time we've ever had. And we accomplished a lot. I don't mean just, gee whiz, wasn't that nice. He's a very capable man. He's doing a great job for France. He did an incredible job for the G-7, and I just want to thank you. And you go ahead to your news conference, and very special. This was a very special, very unified 2.5 days, and I want to thank you for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I will leave the floor and the press conference to President. Thank you. I will leave the floor and the press conference to President Trump, and I will wait for the end of your own press conference. Voilà, finalement. Je ferai une conférence de presse. Je laisse la poser au président. Allez-y.
Écoutez, je ne veux pas faire de délation, Monsieur le Président.
I don't want to give anything away, but we saw your wife, the First Lady, drink a glass of French wine yesterday. So can you perhaps give up on your threats to put sanctions on French wine? Because if we've understood correctly, you have arrived at an agreement on taxing digital firms. Could you confirm that there has been an agreement between you and France on taxing digital
No, I
firms?
can confirm that the First Lady loved your French wine. Okay? All right? She loved your French wine. So thank you very much. That's fine.
Thank you. Merci à vous. I will wait for the end of this press conference to have the press conference of the presidency. I will leave the floor to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. This is worse than you are. This is worse than you are. I can't believe it. Jonathan. Come on up. Come on up.
Can I just ask a question since I didn't get to ask you one directly? On China, you have recently been saying that China wants to make a deal, but that you are not necessarily ready for a deal.
All right, we'll start now. Please sit down. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you very much.
You've recently been saying that China wants a deal, but you're not necessarily ready for a deal, and you like the tariff revenue that is coming in. Are you now ready to make a deal?
Only if it's a fair deal and a good deal for the United States. Otherwise, I will not make a deal. We have billions and billions coming in, and I think we're going to get there. I do. I believe it more strongly now than I would have believed it a while ago. We're going to get there, and we're going to have a really, we're going to have a fair deal. But remember this, when you say fair, China's been taking out of this country $500+ billion a year for many, many years. Many, many years. It was time to stop. As a private person, I used to talk about it. It's one of the reasons I'm president. And we're in a great position. Our country's doing well. Our unemployment numbers are the lowest they've been in over 50 years. Our unemployment numbers for African American, Asian, for Hispanic are the best they've ever been. Historic numbers. We're in a very strong position. Our consumers are strong. Walmart just announced numbers that were, mind-boggling numbers. It's a great poll right there. That's the ultimate poll. How are the retailers doing, and how are certain companies doing? So we're doing very well, and I think that I think we're going to make a deal with China, and I think eventually we're going to make a deal with Iran too.
But why are you optimistic they'll change their behavior?
It's not a question of behavior. I think they want to make a deal, and I think they should make a deal, and I think if they don't make a deal, it's going to be very bad for China. And I very much appreciate the fact that they came out last night, very late last night, and they said, they want to make a deal. They want it to be under calm circumstances. It was a little different kind of a statement. I thought it was a beautiful statement. I thought it indicated a lot. Go ahead. Here we go.
I actually have a question for you on next year's G7 summit, but can I just clarify something you said? You mentioned earlier today.
One question. Go ahead.
Let me do the clarification, and then I'll get to the question.
No.
You talked about calls with China and a breaking news alert. I'm trying to understand what specifically you heard from China. And on next year's G7, you alluded today, dropped several hints about Miami, about Doral, and hosting next year's G7 at your property. What reassurances, if any, can you give the American people that you are not looking to profit off the presidency?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've spent, and I think I will, in a combination of loss and opportunity. Probably it'll cost me anywhere from $3 to $5 billion to be president. And the only thing I care about is this country. Couldn't care less, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. People have asked me, what do you think it costs? And between opportunity, not doing things, I used to get a lot of money to make speeches. Now I give speeches all the time. You know what I get? Zippo, and that's good. And I did a lot of great jobs and great deals that I don't do anymore, and I don't want to do them because the deals I'm making are great deals for the country, and that's to me much more important. Doral happens to be within Miami. It's a city. It's a wonderful place. It's a very, very successful area of Florida. It's very importantly only 5 minutes from the airport. The airport's right next door. It's a big international airport, one of the biggest in the world. Everybody that's coming, all of these people with all of their big entourages come. It's set up so, and by the way, my people looked at 12 sites, all good, but some were 2 hours from an airport. Some were 4 hours from, I mean, they were so far away. Some didn't allow this or they didn't allow that. With Doral, we have a series of magnificent buildings. We call them bungalows. They each hold from 50 to 70 very luxurious rooms with magnificent views. We have incredible conference rooms, incredible restaurants. It's like such a natural. We wouldn't even have to do the work that they did here, and they've done a beautiful job. They've really done a beautiful job. And what we have also is Miami. And we have many hundreds of acres so that in terms of parking, in terms of all of the things that you need, the ballrooms are among the biggest in Florida and the best. It's brand new. And they want that. My people wanted it. From my standpoint, I'm not going to make any money. In my opinion, I'm not going to make any money. I don't want to make money. I don't care about making money. If I wanted to make money, I wouldn't worry about $3 billion to $5 billion, because that's what, I mean, at some point I'm going to detail that and we'll show. But I think it's just a great place to be. I think having it in Miami is fantastic, really fantastic. Having it at that particular place because of the way it's set up. Each country can have their own villa or their own bungalow. And the bungalows, when I say, they have a lot of units in them. So I think it just works out well. And when my people came back, they took tours. They went to different places. I won't mention places, but you'll have a list because they're going to give a presentation on it fairly soon. They went to places all over the country. And they came back and they said, this is where we'd like to be. Now, we had military people doing it. We had Secret Service people doing it. We had people that really understand what it's about. It's not about me. It's about getting the right location. I think it's very important. Jonathan? No, not at all. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. President. President Macron said he'd like to see talks between you and President Rouhani within weeks. Does that sound realistic to you? Could you see yourself in talks with the Iranians within weeks?
Well, it does. I don't know the gentleman. I think I know him a little bit just by watching over the last number of years what's happened. Tell you one thing, he's a great negotiator. But I think he's going to want to meet. I think Iran wants to get their situation straightened out. Now, is that based on fact or based on gut? That's based on gut. But they want to get their situation straightened out, Jonathan. And they're really hurting badly. Their inflation, as you know, because I saw you reporting on it, their inflation is through the roof. Their economy is tanked entirely. The sanctions are absolutely hurting them horribly. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. They're great people. I don't want to see that. But we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Can't let it happen. So I think that there's a really good chance that we would meet. Jeff, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another follow-up from what the President of France said. He said that there might be a need for compensation to Iran. Would you, given all of the criticism you've made of the JCPOA and the money that they got, be open to giving Iran compensation if it met some of the criteria that you laid out?
What he's talking in terms of compensation is they are out of money. And they may need a short-term letter of credit or loan. No, we're not paying. We don't pay. But they may need some money to get them over a very rough patch. And if they do need money, certainly, and it would be secured by oil, which to me is great security. And they have a lot of oil, but it's secured by oil. So we're really talking about a letter of credit type facility.
From the U.S. or from all the countries
it would be
involved?
from numerous countries. And it comes back. It would expire. It would be paid back immediately and very quickly. Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now it's Aoyama with the Asahi Shimbun, a Japanese newspaper.
Good.
Now
just left.
Now the U.S.
Your Prime Minister, Abe. Good man. Great man.
Okay, and now the U.S. and Japan have an agreement in principle, which you said is a tremendous trade deal for the United States. So
and for Japan, I would
yes.
say.
So are you still considering imposing Section 232 tariffs on Japan's auto exports to the United States on national security grounds?
Not at this moment, no. Not at this moment. Well, it's one of the reasons we made the deal, but no, not at this moment. It's something I could do at a later date if I wanted to, but we're not looking at that. We just want to be treated fairly. You know, Japan has had a tremendous trade surplus with the United States for many, many years, long before I came here. And I'll tell you something, we're transforming our country. We're taking these horrible, one-sided, foolish, very dumb, stupid, if you'd like to use that word, because it's so descriptive. We're taking these trade deals that are so bad and we're making good, solid deals out of them. And that's transforming our country. That will be transformative and very exciting, I think, for our country. Very, very exciting. Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I didn't actually say you. I said the woman behind you. So why don't we do her first? You've been asking a lot of questions all day long.
Thanks, Mr. President. Yamiche Shelton.
Can't say I don't give you access, right? Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. President. Yamiche Shelton with PBS NewsHour.
Yes.
Why do you think it's appropriate to invite Russia to the G7, given that they've meddled in the 2016 election? And are you worried that if Russia does come to the G7, that it might hurt you politically because it's only going to be a couple months before the 2020 election?
I don't care politically. I really don't. A lot of people don't understand this. I ran one election and I won. Happened to be for president. I don't care politically. I'm going to run another election. I think I'm winning based on polls that we see. Whether I win or not, I have to do the right thing. So I don't do things for political reasons. Is it good? Probably not. Maybe it is. I mean, a lot of people are smart. A lot of people say having Russia, which is a power, having them inside the room is better than having them outside the room. By the way, there were numerous people during the G7 that felt that way. And we didn't take a vote or anything, but we did discuss it. My inclination is to say, yes, they should be in. They were... Really, it was a President Obama. I'm not blaming him, but a lot of bad things happened with President Putin and President Obama. One of the things that happened was, as you know, what happened with a very big area, a very, very big and important area in the Middle East where the red line was drawn, and then President Obama decided that he was not going to do anything about it. You can't draw red lines in the sand. You just can't do it. And the other was in Ukraine, having to do with a certain section of Ukraine that you know very well, where it was sort of taken away from President Obama. Not taken away from President Trump, taken away from President Obama. President Obama was not happy that this happened because it was embarrassing to him, right? It was very embarrassing to him. And he wanted Russia to be out of what was called the G8. And that was his determination. He was outsmarted by Putin. He was outsmarted. President Putin outsmarted President Obama. Wait a minute. And I can understand how President Obama would feel. He wasn't happy, and they're not in for that reason. Now, I'm only thinking about the world, and I'm thinking about this country in terms of the G7, whether it's G7, G8. I think it would be better to have Russia inside the tent than outside the tent. Do we live either way? Yes, we live either way. Is it politically popular for me to say that? Possibly not. I think a lot of people would agree with me, frankly, but possibly not. I do nothing for politics. I know a lot of you aren't going to, you're going to smile at that. I do nothing for politics. I do what's right. And people like what I do. But I just do what's right. If I wanted to go strictly by politics, I'd probably poll that. And possibly I'd say, oh, gee, I don't want Russia in. But I really think it's good for security of the world. It's good for the economics of the world. Remember, they're building a big pipeline in Europe, going right up to Germany. And I said to Angela, who I had a great relationship, but I said, you know, you pay Russia billions of dollars, and then we defend you from Russia. And I say, how does that work?
Misleading statement that Russia outsmarted President Obama.
Well, he
when
did.
Other countries have said that the reason why Russia was kicked out was very clearly because they annexed Crimea. Why keep repeating what some people would see as a clear lie?
Well, it was annexed during I know you like President Obama, but it was annexed during President Obama's term. If it was annexed during my term, I'd say, sorry, folks, I made a mistake, or sorry, folks. President Obama was helping Ukraine. Crimea was annexed during his term. Now, it's a very big area, very important area. Russia has its submarine. That's where they do their submarine work, and that's where they dock large and powerful submarines, but not as powerful as ours and not as large as ours. But they have their submarines. And President Obama was pure and simply outsmarted. They took Crimea during his term. That was not a good thing. It could have been stopped. Could have been stopped with the right whatever. It could have been stopped. But President Obama was unable to stop it, and it's too bad. Go ahead.
as the G7 host next year, you were allowed to invite other countries to come, guest countries, even though they're not necessarily part of the overall group. Would you consider inviting Vladimir Putin under those circumstances?
I don't know that he'd accept. Those are tough circumstances. He was a part of G8, and all of a sudden, he's not out or he's not in. So I think, John, actually, that's a pretty tough thing for him. You know, he's a proud person. Would I invite him? I would certainly invite him. Whether or not he could come psychologically, I think that's a tough thing for him to do. You have a G8, now it's a G7, and you invite the person that was thrown out really by President Obama, and really because he got outsmarted. President Obama, pure and simple. And don't forget, it was not just Crimea. It was the red line in the sand. And Obama said, never violate the red line in the sand. And then they went ahead and they killed many children with gas. It was terrible. And he did nothing about it. I did, but I was there years later. I did something about it, but I was there late. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Can you help us understand the timeline on the China calls? Were you referring to the statement by the Vice President?
Well, we've had many calls. Secretary Mnuchin is here, and you've had many calls over the last 24 hours, but certainly over the last 48 hours. We've had many calls, not just one. This isn't one. And these are high-level calls. They want to make a deal. And by the way, I think a deal's going to be made, but they want to make a deal.
So the Chinese are saying that there weren't any
The
particular
Chinese are
special
not
calls.
saying that. Excuse me, let me explain something. The vice chairman of China, do you get higher than that other than President Xi? The vice president, the vice chairman, it's like the vice president, the vice chairman made the statement that he wants to make a deal, that he wants to see a calm atmosphere. He wants it all to happen. That says it there. I don't have to talk about, you folks were reporting before, well, we can't find any phone call. He released a statement. I didn't release it. He released a statement.
But there were phone calls, sir, Mr. President. There were phone calls.
Numerous calls. And not only with Steve, there were calls with other people, too. Just so you understand, China wants to make a deal. Now, whether or not we make a deal, it's got to be a great deal for us. And I told this to President Xi, who I really respect. I really do. I have great respect, and I like him, too. He's a tough guy. But I have a lot of feeling for President Xi. He's very outstanding in so many ways. But I told him very strongly, I said, look, you're starting up here, and you're making $500 billion a year and stealing our intellectual property. We're down on the floor, lower than the floor. You can't make a 50-50 deal. This has to be a deal that's better for us. And if it's not better, let's not do business together. I don't want to do business. Forget about tariffs for a second. We're taking in tremendous amounts of money. Forget that. I don't want to do business. Now, when I raise and he raises, I raise and he raises, we can never catch up. We have to balance our trading relationship at least to an extent. And they were unwilling to do that. And we'll never have a deal if that happens, but it's going to happen because they have to have a deal. And as far as phone calls are concerned, Secretary of the Treasury and other people have been receiving many calls, not receiving, back and forth, many calls. China wants to make a deal, and if we can, we will make a deal. We'll see. Go ahead.
Mr. President, if I could ask you a little bit about your China strategy.
Yeah.
President Macron talked a little bit about instability and the worry in the markets and around the globe about instability. One of the things that comes from, as you talked to people,
You're talking about global economic instability?
Right.
I don't consider it
one of the
instability,
things
but
that it
that's
comes from is the back and forth and the changing statements from yourself. So that
it's the way I negotiate.
So my question is that a strategy? Is it a strategy to call President Xi an enemy one day and then say that relations are very good the next day, and then it's gone back.
It's the way I negotiate. It's done very well for me over the years, and it's doing even better for the country.
Could
I think,
you talk a little bit about
and I
why
do
it
think,
works?
and I do think that. Look, here's the story. I have people say, "Oh, just make a deal, make a deal." They don't have the guts, and they don't have the wisdom to know that you can't continue to go on where a country is taking 500 billion, not million, 500 billion with a B, out every single year. $500 billion. You just can't do that. Somebody had to do this. This should have been done by President Obama. It should have been done, and Biden, Sleepy Joe. It should have been done by other people. It should have been done by Bush. It should have been done by Clinton. Double Bush. It should have been done. I'm doing it. Let me tell you something else. North Korea should have been done a long time ago. I'm doing it. I'm doing a lot of things that I shouldn't have to be doing. Please. Go ahead, please.
Beth Rigby, Sky News. President Trump, you've met our new Prime Minister Boris Johnson yesterday.
Yes.
You said he was the right man for the job on Brexit.
I believe that.
Do you think Theresa May was the wrong woman? And do you think that Boris Johnson can actually get a deal with the EU before October the 31st?
Well, Theresa was unable to do the deal. I gave her my ideas as to doing the deal very early on, and you possibly know what they are, but I would have done that. She chose to do it her way, and that didn't work out so well. I think she's a very, very good person and a good woman, and I really believe that Boris Johnson will be a great prime minister. We like each other, and we had a great 2.5 days. I've been waiting for him to be prime minister for about 6 years. I told him, what took you so long? I think he's going to be a great prime minister, and especially after spending a lot of intense time with him over the last couple of days. He's very smart, he's very strong, and he's very enthusiastic. And you know what else? He loves your country. He really loves your country. That came out maybe more than anything else. Yeah, please.
Vicky Young, BBC News. President Trump, Boris Johnson is very keen on a trade deal with the USA. You sound keen on it too. Some of his critics, though, are worried that you're going to do over the UK in that deal to protect American
I love
interests.
the UK. I own great property in the UK. I love the UK. I have no idea how my property is doing because I don't care. But I own Turnberry, and I own in Aberdeen, and I own in Ireland, as you know, Doonbeg, and great stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I think he's going to just do a great job as prime minister. You know, it takes a lot. It's so many different elements to being a great prime minister. And you needed him. I just think his time is right. This is the right time for Boris. This is the right time for Boris. Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead, right here. Say who you're with, please.
Robert Peston from ITV in the UK as well. You've obviously had a good few days with President Macron, who you appear to be doing business with, to use your favourite expression. After Brexit, who do you think will be your more important relationship? President Macron, France and the EU, or Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
I think we're going to have just, look, France is a great nation. It's being run. A lot of things are happening. You know, it's not easy what he's doing. He's changing certain ways. It's a very hard thing to do. I won't get into it. I'm going to let him sell his ideas, but a lot of people don't disagree with his ideas. But it's a very hard thing to do. If you're a great citizen of France, you love your country, but you want to do the way you've been doing it for a long time. But maybe that's not working, and maybe they have to do what he has to do. I think he's going to do a fantastic job, but it's very tough for him. I know how tough it is for him. He's been having a hard time, and nobody would have an easy time. But I do believe he's doing the right thing. Boris is different. It's a different kind of a deal. Boris has to try and do something with Brexit. It's very tough. I deal with the EU. The EU that's a very, very strong group of people. They have their ideas, and they're not easy to deal with, I will tell you. We're very close to making a deal, by the way, with the EU. I have to say this. We made a great deal with Japan, and we're very close to maybe making a deal with the EU because they don't want tariffs. It's very simple. They don't want to tax cars. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, they don't need a 20% or a 25% tax. But we're very close. I think we're going to make a deal with the EU without having to go that route. I may have to go that route, but maybe not. We're going to have a deal, a really fair deal, but the EU is another one. We've been losing $180 billion a year for many years. That's a lot of money. How much can you take out of the piggy bank, right?
But which alliance will be more important, with the EU or with Britain?
Both. I don't want to say which. Look, I think we have been with I guess would start off by saying England, right? You know, I asked Boris, where's England? What's happening with England? They don't use it too much anymore. We talked about it. It was very interesting. But the United Kingdom is a great, incredible place. It's an incredible nation. And it's, you know, been one of our tremendous allies. And another one happens to be Australia. He was here also, Scott. He is fantastic. In fact, we're honoring him in Australia at the White House in a very short period of time. But I think that, excuse me? Will you visit Australia? At some point I will, yeah. At some point I will. Also Germany. Angela asked me to visit Germany. We're going to be doing that too. So I just think they're very different. And they're going to be going at it for a little while, but ultimately probably it works out. They may have to get out. They may not make a deal. The European Union is very tough to make deals with. Very, very tough. Just ask Theresa May.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ziegler with the Associated Press. I was hoping you could clarify. Last year, you left this summit in Canada feuding with the summit host. This year, things seem to be a little bit different. You're talking about unity, had a hug with President Macron on the stage. What is different? And also, as President Macron said, he's passing you the baton now of leading this multilateral institution. You ran on the platform of America First. What is your now that you have a mandate for the international community, what are you going to do with it?
Well, we actually had a very good meeting. I had it out with one or two people where we disagreed in terms of concept, but we actually had a pretty good meeting last year. I would say that this was a big step above in terms of unity, in terms of agreement. We have really great agreement on a lot of very important subjects. But last year was good also. I mean, last year was good also. I think last year might have been a little bit underrated. You know, go ahead, please.
In terms of the G7 presidency, what do you want to do with it? What's your agenda?
Oh, we're going to do something hopefully special. We're going to build on what we have now. We built on something really good. We're going to be going in with some great unity. We really did. If there was any word for this particular meeting of 7 very important countries, it was unity. I think most important of all, we got along great. We got along great. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm Qing Yichang with Shanghai Media Group. You just mentioned that Chinese Vice Premier Liu He said China is willing to resolve this issue through calm negotiations.
No, I didn't say it. He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And will the U.S. negotiate in the same manner?
Yes.
And also, so the other issue, other question.
That was an easy answer.
So the U.S. will negotiate in the same manner with
Absolutely. Great respect for China. Great respect for the leadership of China. Absolutely.
And also the other question is that you say you definitely will invite Putin to join next year's summit.
I haven't said that, but I think that having President Putin in what was the G8, he was a member of the G8, and I heard he was a good member of the G8. Having him in, I think, is more of an advantage. I think it's a positive for the world. I think it's a positive for Russia. I think it's a big positive for Russia. And it's something the group is discussing. They are discussing it.
But just a few hours ago...
People feel very much like me, many people. What?
But just a few hours ago, Russian foreign minister is saying that it's not their foreign policy pursuit to return G8. What's your reaction to that?
You know, we'll see. I know one thing. If they were invited back, I think they'd be there. If they weren't, that's okay too. I just think they'd be better inside than outside. I mean, as I said before, I really do. I think they'd be an asset. I think it would be a good thing. You know, some of the things, we were going in the room, and yesterday in particular, we were discussing 4 or 5 matters, and Russia was literally involved in all of those 4 or 5 matters. And a few of the people looked up and said, you know, why aren't they here talking to us about it? What are we going to do now? Go home? Take it easy for a day? Although I'm not doing that. I don't take it easy. But we're going to go home and start calling them at the end of the week and say, hey, how about this? Could have been in the room. We had numerous things that we were discussing, right? Numerous. We had a lot of things that we were discussing. And it would have been very easy if Russia was in the room. If he was in the room, we could have solved those things. Now they're just in limbo. But I have to say, with all of that, very little in limbo. But somebody will speak to him about some things, and frankly, they're not very complicated. But it would be easier if they were in the room.
Thank you so much.
Josh, go ahead. Josh.
Mr. President, there was a significant talk at the summit about climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth. The wealth is under its feet. I've made that wealth come alive. We will soon be exporting. In fact, we're actually doing it now, exporting. But we are now the #1 energy producer in the world, and soon it will be by far, with a couple of pipelines that have not been able to get approved for many, many years. It'll have a huge impact. I was able to get ANWR in Alaska, could be the largest site in the world for oil and gas. I was able to get ANWR approved. Ronald Reagan wasn't able to do it. Nobody was able to do it. They've been trying to do it since before Ronald Reagan. I got it approved. We're the #1 energy producer in the world. Soon it will be by far the #1. It's tremendous wealth, and LNG is being sought after all over Europe and all over the world, and we have more of it than anybody else. And I'm not going to lose that wealth. I'm not going to lose it on dreams, on windmills, which, frankly, aren't working too well. I'm not going to lose it. So, Josh, in a nutshell, I want the cleanest water on earth. I want the cleanest air on earth. And that's what we're doing. And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I have done more environmental impact statements probably than anybody that's, I guess I can say definitely, because I've done many, many, many of them, more than anybody that's ever been president or vice president or anything even close to president. And I think I know more about the environment than most people. I want clean air. I want clean water. I want a wealthy country. I want a spectacular country with jobs, with pensions, with so many things. And that's what we're getting. So I want to be very careful. At the same time, you weren't called. At the same time, it's very important to me, we have to maintain this incredible place that we've all built. We've become a much richer country, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing, because that great wealth allows us to take care of people. We can take care of people that we couldn't have taken care of in the past because of the great wealth. We can't let that wealth be taken away. Clean air, clean water. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You didn't answer the question as to whether you believe that climate change is happening.
Good morning. Moving on to regular News Now programming this morning. 2 dogs attacked a man early this morning in North Philadelphia, forcing police to fire shots. It all happened in North Philadelphia, where Lauren Johnson has the latest.
So we're standing right here at the intersection, and this is likely the spot where this attack started to happen. All of it captured on video from the 6th Street supermarket. The cameras perched there on the side of that brick building, and you can watch in that video where that man in his 50s, who police have not yet identified, is left in critical condition now at Temple University Hospital as police try to figure out exactly what happened. They have a much better idea now, though. It appears the man is walking when he comes under attack by the pair of dogs. They are ruthless as they drag him around the intersection while he tries to fight them off. Both dogs aggressively attacking this helpless man when another person tries to intervene, trying hard to beat the dogs with a stick and save that man from the painful hold. One dog turns on that man, chasing him down 6th Street before the dog returns and continues his attack. Then police arrive about 6 minutes after the initial attack, and you see one of the officers fire that first shot. It startles one of the dogs. The other dog does not even loosen his grip until more shots are fired. The pit bull runs off towards 5th Street. The bull mastiff is killed. Officers apply 2 tourniquets on the man's arms to stop the heavy bleeding before medics take him to Temple. in critical condition. It's still a little unclear what that man was doing in the moments before that attack, because the camera does not start rolling until that motion happens. I can tell you that people who live in this neighborhood are not completely surprised by this. Many of them are telling us they often see large dogs roaming this neighborhood unleashed. There are a lot of kids in this neighborhood, so many of them not really surprised that this happened. But one person says that they're really hopeful this man makes it out alive of this attack, because we're hearing from police that these wounds are pretty critical.
And developing this morning out of Gloucester County, crews were on the scene of a house fire in West Deptford Township, where a 75-year-old woman lost her life. Fox 29's Bill Anderson filed this report.
Hey, good morning, guys. And actually, the last of the firefighters are wrapping up their investigation. A couple of police officers are still here, but pretty much this scene is just about complete, just about closed. But unfortunately, as you pointed out, it did result in the tragic passing of the homeowner, 75-year-old Jacqueline Truss. Now, right now, you can see just how much damage the fire did to the house, looking at it right now. But if we can take a look at video that was shot by a neighbor earlier, you can see how quickly the fire actually spread through the house. That video showed it literally moments after they say that they heard a loud explosion, came outside, and fire was already everywhere. And that was about 1:40 this morning on the 1500 block of Division Street in West Deptford. And when first responders got here, they saw that fire. They were told that there were occupants inside, but unfortunately, again, 75-year-old Jacqueline Truss did not make it out. Now, she lived in the home alone after her husband, a retired police officer, passed away a couple of years ago. Now, the video showed that the fire spread quickly, and both police and the neighbors who tried to help said, unfortunately, that spreading fire was something they couldn't overcome.
I grabbed one of the big bricks out front and I threw it through the front window. And once we saw it was just pure black smoke, we knew that she didn't make it.
My guys arrived on scene first, and it was completely engulfed in fire. It's a real sad feeling when you know you cannot get inside the house. They couldn't even see 1 foot inside the residence.
And those are the types of stories that we've been hearing here this entire morning. So sadly, Jacqueline Truss did not make it out. But we are hearing stories about neighbors, first responders who all did everything that they could to try to save a valued and loved community member.
And in political news this morning, President Donald Trump, facing pressure to scale back a U.S.-China trade war contributing to a global economic slowdown, claimed Monday that serious talks will begin soon, although another round has been expected in Washington in September. Fox's Mark Meredith joined Good Day this morning to discuss.
This morning, President Trump says trade talks between the United States and China are back on. This after both countries announced plans last week to impose new tariffs on each other.
And that news sent the U.S. stock market down sharply on Friday. Mark Meredith is in D.C.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Mike and Alex, good morning to you guys. President Trump says Chinese officials reached out to the U.S. late Sunday after the president threatened over the weekend to add even more tariffs on imports from China.
This is a very positive development for the world.
President Trump told reporters at the G-7 summit in France the U.S. and China are ready to engage in new trade talks.
So we'll be getting back to the table, and I think they want to do something. They've been hurt very badly, but they understand this is the right thing to do.
The decision to talk comes after both countries announced plans last week to increase tariffs on each other's products. China's vice premier reportedly saying overnight, quote, "We are willing to resolve the issue through consultations and cooperation in a calm attitude and resolutely oppose the escalation of the trade war." The news could help ease investors' fears in the United States. On Friday, amid trade tensions, the Dow closed down more than 600 points. But Massachusetts Senator and 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren says President Trump is to blame for the turmoil on Wall Street and beyond.
Donald Trump has no plan. This is just chaos. And trade war by tweet is harmful to the U.S. economy. It's harmful to U.S. farmers. It's harmful to U.S. consumers. It makes no sense at all.
We expect to hear a lot more from President Trump. A few hours from now, he's going to be holding a news conference with the president of France. That's going to be happening just as the stock market is set to open, though. Dow futures looking a lot better than where they were on Friday. The markets here in the U.S. looking to open up. The president will also not be staying in France for much longer. He's set to return back here to the U.S. later on this evening. Mike and Alex, back to you guys.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Well, you're going to say something to Mark? Did you used to work with Mark?
No, serious. I did. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Alex. It's been a long time. It's good to hear. It's good to see. I can hear you. I can't see you, but I hope you're doing well.
Well, I can see you, and you look great. But yes, we go back to Myrtle Beach days.
Long time, exactly. Grand Strand.
All right, you got 20 seconds. Cough up some weird information about Alex.
I'll text you. How about that? I'll text you. How about that?
He wants some stories or some weird info. I don't think I have anything weird, do I?
No dirt on Alex?
No, I wish. As you know, she's an angel, so I couldn't comment. Yeah, absolutely.
You're so sweet. I'll make sure and Venmo you a 20.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you. It's good seeing you.
Apparently, Mark hasn't seen you in a while.
It has been a little bit.
And in consumer news this morning, your deliveries may now be coming from a FedEx robot. The company is testing a new delivery option in Memphis starting this Monday. Tracy Karaskow joined Good Day this morning from Fox Business.
Yes, on the streets of Memphis, Tennessee, you will see this FedEx autonomous robot named Roxo delivering packages. Roxo can carry packages of up to 100 pounds. It uses sensors and artificial intelligence to maneuver around sidewalks and streets, and it can avoid any objects that might be on the sidewalk. So don't worry, though, Roxo will be monitored by a remote operator at all times. So Roxo cannot just go rogue and go anywhere. So this is something we might see more of. We've seen Amazon with their little delivery robot Scout. I think it's much smaller than Roxo. But yeah, Roxo is hitting the streets, possibly more cities coming soon.
Well, a couple things. That thing doesn't look like it could lift 100 pounds.
It can hold 100 pounds in its little
container. Box?
Yes.
That seems okay.
How will they protect it?
Well, only the recipient will have access. So I think there's probably going to be a special code that maybe the recipient has to get inside of Roxo.
No. Yeah, that makes sense. No, I meant like, who's to say someone's not just going to walk up and like kick it or something?
Like a little ball bat, just.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to happen, but it will be monitored by a remote operator at all times. So perhaps if the person monitoring the robot sees it's in danger, will maneuver it around another way. I don't know how they're going to protect it. I would hope that people wouldn't go over and kick it over, but
this is Philly. Come on. No, I mean it's going to be. Why doesn't the remote operator just deliver the package?
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Good question.
Yeah.
I think that's not a remote operator. I think that's a delivery person, right?
Well, that's what. But this remote operator is a human, undoubtedly, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be walking next to the robot. It doesn't.
That would defeat the purpose.
Put down your little.
I don't know.
Then that's double duty.
Put down the switch and pick up the box yourself, you jerk, and deliver it to the guy. Oh, Tracy.
We're just having fun.
Are we?
Yeah, trying to figure it out.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
All righty.
I love that green.
To your Fox 29 Weather Authority. The Philadelphia area is slated for a pretty pleasant Monday with a mix of sun and clouds and mild temperatures. Temperatures are expected to reach a high of around 79 degrees, with those temperatures expected to continue hovering around that sort of upper 70s, low 80s mark for the bulk of the week. Here we have a look at current temperatures in our area, and even 60 degrees up in the Poconos, about 10 degrees higher over in Lancaster, and we're not even hitting the 70-degree mark here in Philadelphia. It's slightly warmer down the Jersey Shore, 72 degrees in Wildwood, and 69 degrees in Atlantic City. Looking ahead to our 7-day forecast, again, it's going to be a nice and sunny day this Monday. Will get very slightly warmer by Tuesday and heading into Wednesday before we reach closer to about 90 degrees this weekend. And we do have a threat of some storms Wednesday into Thursday, but looking ahead to the weekend, it's looking pretty dry as of now with temperatures in the mid-80s. And more in local news this morning. A young boy is recovering after a hit and run involving a pickup truck in northeast Philadelphia. It happened last night around 7:30 p.m. after the 9-year-old boy got out of another car on Larch Street. Police say a white Toyota driver struck the boy, then took off.
The car that hit him sped across the stop sign down the street. He didn't even stop at the stop sign.
Accidents do happen for somebody to, hit and keep on going. That's sad. So I hope they catch him or catch whoever it was.
Police are continuing to search for the driver. And in Delaware County, police are searching for a robbery suspect who hit a Family Dollar store. It happened yesterday morning about 20 minutes after the store opened at a strip mall on the 3400 block of Concord Road in Aston. Police say a man armed with a gun held up an employee and got away with about $200.
Aston's a good area. It's a nice, quiet area. It's a good school district. Everybody seems to look out for each other here. We never really had these problems until recently. I don't get it no more. I don't get this world no more. Can't even go nowhere without anything happening.
Sunday's robbery came 2 days after another armed robbery at a Big Lots in the same shopping plaza. Police believe the same person is responsible for both robberies based on the clothing worn by the suspect in the surveillance photos. And in the Franklin section of Philadelphia, police say a man tried breaking into a truck casting store by sawing a hole through a tree. It happened before 2 yesterday morning on South Street. Officers arrested the guy before he was able to get in, but say they did find a section of the roof pried open and another smashed with a brick. Police say they've also recovered a backpack with a screwdriver. And in Newcastle County, a woman has been arrested after police say she punched a pregnant woman at a Chick-fil-A drive-thru. Troopers say 19-year-old Jada Blake was waiting at the Chick-fil-A store in Bear when another car tried to pull in front of her. Police say Blake then got out and started hitting the woman through her open window, punching the woman in her stomach, knowing she was pregnant. Blake faces a list of charges, including felony assault. Also happening this Monday, it's the first day of school for many kids in our area. Chester County students begin classes, and a few other counties have some districts that begin today, including those in Bucks County, Delaware County, and Montgomery County. And Bucks County students in Bensalem were welcomed back by some primary cases this morning. Men and women of local law enforcement were on hand for the first day of classes. It's all part of an ongoing effort between schools and law enforcement to help the relationships between police and the community officers. Uniformed officers will show up for this first day of school at every school. And here in Philadelphia, the annual Made in America Festival on the Ben Franklin Parkway is less than a week away, and that means lots of road closures. Over the weekend, 2 lanes of Eakins Oval already shut down in front of the Art Museum, and today Spring Garden Street will close between the Parkway and Pennsylvania Ave. The rest of the Parkway will start shutting down on Wednesday. Then from Saturday, August 31st to September 3rd, most roads around the Art Museum will close or have parking restrictions. So if you have to drive through that area, you should plan an alternative route. And if you're driving through the Bucks County area today, you'll also want to give yourself some extra time. I-95 South and I-295 westbound will both be reduced to just one lane starting today for a paving project. The closures are happening between Route 413 in Bristol and Academy Road interchanges from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. Crews are expected to finish on Thursday. And we're going to send you out on a good note this morning. One local mother has made it her mission to give her son, who has a visual impairment, a greater sense of independence by using Braille patches. That mother and her son joined Good Day this morning to share their story.
You're about to meet a mother who is determined to give her visually impaired son a sense of independence. And she launched her own company to get this done.
And it's not only making a positive impact in her son's life, but also other families who may be facing the same challenges. Here's their story.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
It was a diagnosis for which Gracie Benedict Kane was not prepared. When her firstborn, Wani, was just 12 months old, he was diagnosed with a rare condition that causes serious visual impairment. Doctors told Gracie Wani would not have 100% of his vision by a long shot. Gracie says she feared for her son and what his future would be. Although he was visually impaired, she didn't want him to lose his sense of independence. Gracie got the idea to create Braille patches to help Wani be able to get dressed by himself without asking for help. She knew other families could also benefit from her patches, and so she launched her own company, Braille Code Incorporated.
3 students are starting Braille Code School today.
Gracie and Wani also do school visits, teaching students about what it means to be visually impaired with Gracie's book, What's Cool About Braille Code School. Now at age 12, Wani is thriving. And through her company, Gracie is bridging the gap between the visually impaired and what she calls the sighted world. Gracie is here, and Wani is here. Thank you for coming in. It's great to have you here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Gracie, when did you come up with the idea? How long ago?
It was about maybe 4 years ago.
Something like that?
Yeah, something like that. And it just came out, like an epiphany. I was sitting in my living room, and all of a sudden I looked up and I saw patches, and it's like a revelation.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like one of those things that, why didn't somebody think of this before? They're little, they come in these little packets here. Mm-hmm. I know which camera you want me to do this on.
Yeah. Turn it the other way.
Yeah.
That's just showing the patches.
There you go.
Like that, yeah.
You see, it's Braille on patches.
And then you take them and you put them on the different clothing items or wherever you might need them?
Yes. Well, those are the right and left patches,
okay.
And they go onto shoes. They go into the inner, right, you can feel it to be read by our customers who are blind or visually impaired. The children also can learn right to left, mm-hmm. And they can actually, it's an adhesive. You take the white part off.
The white patch,
yes.
The little piece here.
You can take it right off and put it right in the inner tongue of the shoe. So every time they put on their shoe, they can just read it and put it on without touching it and, trying to figure it out.
So, Wani, I have one in my hand here. I'm going to hand it to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what does that say?
This says... It says right.
So that would mean his right shoe? Or,
right.
And what other messages are on these?
They're just directional cues,
okay.
Which is right, left. We have this back patch, which says B-A-C-K, mm-hmm. And it's strategically by the heel of the shoe, so they can just slap it right on without mm-hmm. having to figure it out. And it's a dual understanding where it's the heel mm-hmm. to put on, and it also indicates that it's not inside out because the patch is outside.
Oh, nice. Can you wash them on and they'll stay on?
Yes, they'll stay on. Great. I made sure of that. Yeah.
And this is all because Wani, he wanted to be more independent.
Yes. I saw him trying to put on his clothes one day, and my husband and I sat there like, how are we going to do this? And searching on, looking through the internet, seeing if there was anything that could help him. I didn't find anything. Right. But unbeknownst to me, with time, it just came to me to do it.
This seems like a Shark Tank kind of thing. Have you been contacted about that?
We've tried. We've gone to a couple of castings, right, Wani?
Yeah.
We've been to a couple of castings and, to no avail so far.
What grade are you in, Wani?
I am going to the 7th grade this September.
Okay.
And you love school, don't you?
A little, yeah.
Well, you speak several different languages, don't you?
Yeah, not all of it, just pleasantries and numbers and stuff.
But still, rattle off how many different ones?
It's hard to count them.
No,
like
the
Mandarin?
languages, Mandarin.
Oh yeah, Mandarin, yeah.
And what else?
A little bit of Japanese, some Spanish, Italian, French.
Oh my God.
But we are Hispanic, so.
Okay. You want to guess how many languages I can speak?
How many?
1. And I don't do that well. Goodness.
Do you really enjoy the patches, Wani?
Yes.
Yeah? Does it make it easier for you, Wani?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it doesn't ask for help. So how's the funding going? What do you need?
Oh, we need so much because the children's book, we actually want to transcribe them into Braille, and there are not a lot of companies who can do it, and it's very expensive to do with the book. To transcribe, how much does it cost for 500 books, Wani?
$13,000.
Oh my God.
What?
It's about that much in just the illustrated parts of the book.
Okay. We have a lot of people who watch this show. You're looking for funding?
We're looking for funding. We're looking for investors. We're 100%, we own it 100%.
It seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
No.
It should be in everybody's home.
In your Walmarts, in your Targets,
Yes.
so that blind people could actually go and get these products to help their children and help themselves.
Help this family out. Yeah, you with all the money. Help this family
So that your
out.
Instagram is Braille Code Inc.
Yes.
And the website is BrailleCodeBrands.com. Is there a link where people can donate on your website?
Yes, there is.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Brilliant idea,
Yes.
Gracie.
Great.
I'm looking for
Nicely
investors.
done.
And Wani, it's nice to meet you.
Thanks, you too.
And we'll be right back.
And that is going to do it for us today at Fox 29's News Now. Be sure to catch us again tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m., and follow us at fox29.com, as well as our mobile app and across social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thank you for joining us this morning.